Chapter 111, Pursuit of the Golden Dragon King. The Golden Dragon King roared in anger and pursued relentlessly. Its enormous wings flapped, causing its massive body to seemingly teleport forward with each stroke. Do you know that the Divine Realm is facing a temporal and spatial turmoil? Golden Dragon King? Once the Divine Realm shield is broken, the temporal and spatial turmoil will affect you too. You may not fare well. Tang San's angry voice echoed. The Golden Dragon King's cold voice resonated throughout the entire space. Of course, I know about the temporal and spatial turmoil. I even discovered it much earlier than you all did, thanks to my extraordinary perception. The destruction of the Divine Realm has nothing to do with me. It would be better if it were destroyed. You detestable and self-righteous gods dared to seal me for so many years. This time, I will help the temporal and spatial turmoil completely destroy the Divine Realm, and let's see how you survive. With my physical strength, even the temporal and spatial turmoil cannot harm me in the short term. I can naturally find another space to survive. Moreover, without your Divine Realm, there will be no divine hunters to control me. When I find the other half of my body, the former dragon god will return. At that time, I will personally establish a Divine Realm for divine beasts and enslave all of you detestable former gods and humans, making sure that they can never rise again. After hearing the Golden Dragon King's words, Tang San was shocked. Obviously, the Golden Dragon King had planned this for a long time. It was likely that even the god of destruction was influenced by it, making it so stubborn and self-centered. But now, it was too late to say anything. They had to resolve the current crisis first. The Golden Dragon King had a point. If the Divine Realm was swallowed up by the temporal and spatial turmoil, the various worlds that the Divine Realm controlled would likely encounter problems. Firstly, without the existence of divine hunters, humans might likely produce some beings that exceeded their original limits. Without the suppression of the Divine Realm, human powers would no longer be limited to their original state. Perhaps several beings capable of destroying heaven and earth would be born. Of course, this was only a possibility. Once the energy reached a certain level, it would be extremely difficult to continue to ascend. However, this restriction would not apply to the Golden Dragon King. With its strength, if it truly descended upon a planet, destroying it would be no difficult task. This was a situation that Tang San did not want to see. If it is really like that, there's no telling how many planets will be enslaved by this Golden Dragon King. If he creates a Divine Realm like he mentioned, it will truly be a catastrophe for all human planets. In the blink of an eye, Tang San did not reduce his control over the sword body. He continued to change direction, but overall he still flew towards the direction of the God Realm Committee. After chasing with all his strength for a while, the Golden Dragon King found that he could not catch up with Tang San. His speed also slowed down a bit, just following behind Tang San. Don't struggle, Shura God. You have no chance. The divine consciousness of the God of destruction and the Goddess of life has been completely extinguished and can no longer pose a threat to me. Now, in the entire God Realm, you are the only one who can barely resist me. The God Realm Committee is about to arrive. Do you still expect it to protect you? I have already seen that the gods in your God Realm are resisting the chaotic time and space flow. I didn't directly intervene to break the barrier. I just let you consume more of the chaotic time and space flow, so that I can become safer. The Golden Dragon King inherited some of the wisdom of the Dragon God, and as Tang San expected, many things were within its calculations. Initially, when the God of destruction came to the forbidden land of the gods, it deliberately released its own breath to be used by the God of destruction to seal Tang San. But it didn't expect that later, Tang San would break the seal by relying on his son's umbilical cord blood. However, it had already sensed the chaotic time and space flow that was coming, and its plan could still continue. Although it said that it was not afraid of the chaotic time and space flow, it still feared it deep down in its heart, especially the terrifying power at the core of the chaotic time and space flow. It definitely dared not confront it head on, and the defense of the God Realm itself is also constantly consuming the power of the chaotic time and space flow, so it naturally does not want to hurry to destroy it. Not to mention, the possibility of the God Realm completely blocking the chaotic time and space flow is very small. Even if it is really blocked, the consumption of the gods in the God Realm is already nearing exhaustion. Who else in this God Realm can resist it? When it was fighting Tang San just now, it had already figured all of this out, so it was not in a hurry. It was just following behind Tang San, waiting for a good opportunity to unleash its full strength. The Golden Dragon King slowed down his speed, and Tang San ahead of him naturally slowed down as well. The fluctuations of divine power emanating from him noticeably weakened. This was something he couldn't control himself. The consumption today was just too great. At this moment, most of the spiritual power in the Divine Realm had been drawn out by the Divine Realm Council. It can be said that he was currently without a source, and it was currently impossible for him to restore his divine power temporarily. However, Tang San did not say another word to the Golden Dragon King and still flew firmly towards the direction of the Divine Realm Council. Chapter 112, The Stupid Accusation of God. Shura God, are you planning to go down with the Divine Council? Fine. I'll help you with that, but don't worry, I won't attack the Divine Council right away. I'll make sure all the gods around the Divine Council see my presence. Just think, if they panic, wouldn't their resistance against the chaotic space-time weaken? When that time comes, I'll watch as you accursed gods, one by one, are consumed by the chaotic space-time in a state of panic. It's just so wonderful. The evil words of the Golden Dragon King made the Shura sword tremble slightly. Compared to the first generation Supreme God, this new generation of Supreme God indeed still had a long way to go. The Shura God wasn't much better either. Unfortunately, the chaotic space-time arrived too early. Otherwise, the God of destruction might have destroyed the entire Divine Realm. The battle between Tang San and the God of destruction was all within its perception, and it saw the entire process. In its eyes, Tang San's combat power displayed from beginning to end was far inferior to that of the Shura God back then. The gap was quite significant. Now, through the battle, he was even more certain about this. The Divine Council was finally about to come into view. In the distance, around the golden towering building, numerous gods gathered, and the beams of golden light still continued to converge towards the direction of the Divine Council. Xiao did a great job. Tang San felt a hint of relief in his heart. His son-in-law's performance during these days could be described as amazing. If it weren't for him, the current situation would definitely be much worse. It seems that his daughter's insight was indeed better than his. If the Golden Dragon King knew that Tang San could still think of these things at this time, it would definitely be wary, but unfortunately, it didn't have the ability to read minds. Even if it did, it wouldn't be able to read the mind of a Supreme God. With a flash of red light, Tang San had already disappeared into the Divine Council. The massive body of the Golden Dragon King appeared outside the protective shield of the Divine Council almost in the next instant. Of course, it couldn't get in, unless the shield of the Divine Council could stop its attack. As if wanting to demonstrate its virtue of keeping its word, the Golden Dragon King opened its huge wings and just hovered outside the protective shield of the Divine Council, not attacking, but emitting deafening dragon roars from its mouth. The shield can isolate the outside time and space turbulence, but it doesn't have any sound insulation effect. The gods who were exerting their divine power were suddenly awakened, just as the Golden Dragon King said. When the gods saw the Golden Dragon King, who was huge in size and emitting a strong golden light all over its body, there was chaos around the Divine Council. Is this the Golden Dragon King? Questions and cries of surprise sounded one after another. Everyone knew that the appearance of the Golden Dragon King at this time meant something to the entire Divine Realm, especially for some veteran gods. They had a deep memory of the story of the Dragon God. What should we do now? Will the Golden Dragon King immediately attack the Divine Council? Boom. The loud noise came not from the Golden Dragon King, but from the time and space turbulence outside. The time and space turbulence was still increasing, and there was no sign of weakening. In the grey air flow, grey electric lights flickered continuously, reflecting the Divine Realm bright and dark. You foolish gods, work hard to resist the time and space turbulence. Don't worry, I am not in a hurry. I can wait, said the Golden Dragon King in a grandiose manner. Of course, it was not in a hurry. It was very pleased to see the gods of the Divine Realm fighting against the time and space turbulence. This was the situation it most wanted to see. It was not afraid of the gods standing around to deal with it at this time. One is because it is not afraid of its own strength, and the more important reason is that facing the time and space turbulence, these gods have no other choice. If they give up fighting against the time and space turbulence now, the Divine Realm will be destroyed immediately. Therefore, even if they know their plan, they can only go head to head with the time and space turbulence in front of them. The Golden Dragon King felt that it was really smart enough for even itself to admire. The rumbling sound echoed continuously, and the light emitted by the Divine Council seemed to be stronger, indicating that Tang San had regained control of the Divine Realm Central again. The Golden Dragon King opened its arms and flew around the Divine Council's shield, carefully observing the god's fear and gritted teeth. The triumphant expression in its ruby-like eyes became even more obvious. It's really wonderful. Work hard, you foolish gods. Chapter 113. You are the fool. It's you who is the fool. Originally, you really had the chance to cause the destruction of the Divine Realm. Unfortunately, although you inherited the power and physical abilities of the Dragon God, you did not inherit its wisdom. In this regard, you are far inferior to the Silver Dragon King. At the beginning, after the Silver Dragon King split, she still knew to escape at that moment. But what about you? You only knew how to fight desperately. That's why you have been sealed for so many years. This time is the same. You are still so foolish, but after this time, you will have no chance again. Tang San's cold voice came from the Divine Realm Council, echoing in the air, allowing every god in the Divine Realm to hear it clearly. The originally anxious gods gradually became calm. The words of the Supreme God undoubtedly had the power to calm everyone down. The Golden Dragon King was stunned. It's already this time, and you are still exaggerating. Although it said so in its mouth, it slowly flapped its huge dragon wings and retreated. Tang San's battle with the God of Destruction had left a deep impression on it. It still remembered how the God of Destruction fell into Tang San's trap step by step in that battle, and finally lost in a situation where his strength was absolutely superior. Could it be that this guy in front of him also had the ability to reverse the situation now? Although it did not believe it in its heart, the Golden Dragon King still held the attitude of rather believing that there was something. Destroying the Divine Realm, it must be destroyed first, and even if the turbulent flow of time and space caused some damage, it could find a planet with abundant heaven and earth energy to sleep on. Anyway, it had already been accustomed to enduring loneliness. Thinking about it, the Golden Dragon King suddenly flapped its huge wings, pushing its huge body to climb into the sky. It was so simple to cooperate with the turbulent flow of time and space. It only needed to crack the Divine Realm barrier, and then the turbulent flow of time and space could do everything and destroy the entire Divine Realm. At this moment, suddenly, two clusters of flames appeared silently on both sides of the Divine Realm Council. When these two clusters of flames first appeared, they were inconspicuous. One cluster was red, and the other was blue, and they looked like the simplest and plainest two flames. However, these two clusters of flames almost changed their color in an instant. One turned black and the other turned white. In an instant, the time and space around the Divine Realm Council seemed to pause for a moment. Then, these two clusters of flames suddenly stretched out and turned into two sharp swords. A pleasant female voice sounded. Goodness is like water. A low male voice sounded. Evil is awe-inspiring. Suddenly, a misty air that seemed to come from chaos rose between heaven and earth. The sky turned white, and the earth turned black. In this instant, compared with the light goddess and the god of destruction who had fought not long ago, the massive body of the Golden Dragon King suddenly seemed to collide with an invisible barrier and was forcibly bounced back. The black and white twin swords on both sides of the Divine Council immediately turned into two streams of light, soaring towards the direction of the Golden Dragon King, and the two divine swords swelled in the wind. Moreover, at the top of the Divine Council, a blood red light also soared into the air, merging with the black and white twin swords. The three divine swords merged into three powerful lights, completely enveloping the Golden Dragon King. An unprecedented sense of fear appeared in the heart of the Golden Dragon King. Facing the three divine swords, it felt as if its entire dragon scales were trembling, and its body was about to be split apart by them. The feeling of death suddenly descended upon it. Roar, roar, roar. It madly roared, flapping its wings, trying to escape with all its might. But at this moment, the entire Divine Realm seemed to be under the control of the Lords of the Three Swords. How could it possibly escape? I said, the stupid one is you. Tang San's cold voice rang in the ear of the Golden Dragon King. Yes. The stupid one was it. At this moment, the Golden Dragon King had also realized that it was a little too late. The only existence in the Divine Realm that could threaten it was the Supreme God. The white divine sword was a manifestation of the kind god of kindness, and the black divine sword was controlled by the evil god of evil. In addition, there was the Answer of Blood sword, which controlled the order of the universe. The three swords merged into one, already controlling all the laws of the entire Divine Realm. Even the complete Dragon God back then would have to avoid such a sword, let alone the Golden Dragon King, who only had the physical strength of the Dragon God. And the sword in front of it was called the Sword of the Three Realms Judgment, representing the world of kindness, evil and Asura. After the Dragon God caused a catastrophe in the Divine Realm, the five major god kings of the Divine Realm realized that they lacked attack methods. They then focused on researching the Sword of the Three Realms Judgment. If the Goddess of Life and the God of Destruction were still alive, they could have added the power of life and destruction to the Sword of the Three Realms Judgment. Now, although the Goddess of Life and the God of Destruction had fallen, the seeds were all in Tang San's hands. Therefore, although the sword in front of them was not complete, its power was almost the same as when it was complete. Chapter 114. Sword of Judgment in the Three Realms. The God Council. The God of Emotion gritted his teeth, his forehead now showing veins as his body trembled uncontrollably. In front of him, everything seemed to be getting blurry on the screen. The immense pressure even caused occasional cracking sounds from his bones. He was at his limit, already approaching the maximum he could endure, which had appeared 10 minutes ago, but he had persisted by gritting his teeth. Ironically, the reason for his limit was his father-in-law, the Supreme God Tang San, who had just arrived in time. Upon seeing Tang San's return, the God of Emotion relaxed a bit, but the overpowering force pushed him to the edge of his limit. Tang San injected him with divine power to stabilize the central nerve system of the God realm and told him in a deep voice that he had to keep going and could not be replaced. The God of Emotion was dumbfounded. How could he keep going when he was already at his breaking point? Then Tang San uttered a single sentence. The Golden Dragon King is coming. This made the God of Emotion shiver as he realized why his father-in-law had left at such a critical moment. Now, he could only brace himself for what was coming. As a level 1 god, he was already proud to be able to hold on in the core of the God realm for so long, enduring immense pressure even greater than what the Supreme God had to face. He was single-handedly driving the power of the God realm to resist the chaos of time and space, preventing the God realm from collapsing. While he gritted his teeth, he saw two familiar gods appear next to his father-in-law. These were two supreme gods, symbols of hope for the entire God realm. The God of kindness and the God of evil had returned at the most critical moment. Originally, when the God of destruction suddenly launched an attack and sealed Tang San, he was actually somewhat prepared, but his preparations were far from sufficient. At that time, even if he wanted to contact the two supreme gods of good and evil in the lower realms, he couldn't do it because he had to go through the center of the divine realm to contact the gods of the lower realm. The gods of good and evil in this generation were the second generation of gods in the divine realm, and their power was slightly inferior to that of Tang San, the God of destruction, and the Goddess of Life. However, they were still existences at the level of the supreme gods. Later, after a fierce battle with the God of destruction, Tang San finally retrieved the center of the divine realm with great effort. At that time, the first thing he did when he returned to the Divine Council was actually to contact the gods of good and evil. Although the consumption was huge, the God of destruction and the Goddess of Life were also there at that time. The growing sense of crisis made him realize that the divine realm must concentrate all its strength to deal with the possible disaster, especially since the God of destruction was still expanding the divine realm at that time. After receiving Tang San's notice, the two major gods of good and evil rushed back as soon as possible. Why was Tang San wandering around outside with the Golden Dragon King just moments ago? He certainly had a purpose. Tang San had calculated that the two major gods of good and evil would return soon, so he was buying time. Later, when he was inadvertently encountered by the Golden Dragon King, he had just received news of the return of the two major gods. Surprised, he reacted slowly, but then quickly returned to his senses. As he said, the truly foolish one is the Golden Dragon King. He was too careless. He even forgot the existence of the God of kindness and the God of evil. The Golden Dragon King inherited the physical abilities of the Dragon God, but it is obvious that it did not inherit the Dragon God's wisdom. You see, at that time, it was only with the Dragon God's powerful abilities and wisdom that he was able to almost destroy the divine realm. It wasn't purely strength. Persist, you must persist. The emotion god's body has already begun to tremble, but he still grits his teeth. He knows that the most critical moment has yet to come. As long as he persists until the three great god kings return to the central realm of the divine world, the possibility of resisting the chaos of time and space will be increased to the maximum. Black, white, and red. The three-colored light condenses in the air and has now transformed into a three-colored giant sword, appearing in the sky. The Golden Dragon King wants to escape. It can't even produce the thought of resistance. It is simply the absolute suppression of power and the absolute suppression of laws. The divine realm is ultimately ruled by the gods. Tang San still clearly remembers that when the previous generation of the god of kindness and the god of evil left the divine realm, they seriously told him that the sword of three realms judgment was specifically designed to deal with the Golden Dragon King. The Golden Dragon King will find a way to break the seal one day, and that will be its death. If this Golden Dragon King is not eliminated, it will always be a hidden danger in the divine realm, and in front of the sword of three realms judgment, it won't even have a chance to transform back into a cocoon. Chapter 115. Sword slashes the Golden Dragon King. At this moment, it was being proven that the Golden Dragon King's body was being pulled by something as it desperately flapped its wings to flee, but it was still being gradually chased by the sword of three realms, inching closer and closer. Fortunately, there was no assistance from the god of destruction or the goddess of life, otherwise the sword of three realms would have long since slain it. The collaboration of the five great god kings was a formidable existence that could withstand the tumultuous flows of time and space. Roar. At this moment, the Golden Dragon King had finally realized what was happening, but it was already too late. Suddenly, an unprecedented fierceness flashed through its ruby-like eyes. It abruptly turned its body and rushed towards the direction of the divine council of the god world. Facing a life or death situation, it had finally made a wise decision, or rather, it was due to its desperate state that its divine thoughts were able to comprehend. Oh no. The Shura God Tang San, the kind god, and the evil god all exclaimed at the same time. How could they not see what the Golden Dragon King was trying to do? It was attempting to break through the shield of the divine council, shatter it, and break their control over the divine power of the god world. As the central institution of the god world, the divine council was protected by the rules, but at this moment, there was no supreme god presiding over it. Furthermore, they were already struggling to withstand the chaotic flows of time and space from outside. The Golden Dragon King was obviously trying to make a final struggle to save itself in this situation. Once the determination of the three great god kings to slay it wavered, it would have an opportunity. What do we do? The kind god and the evil god almost simultaneously turned to the Shura God Tang San for guidance. He was still the leader. Kill it. Tang San did not hesitate, nor did he have time to. The danger posed by the Golden Dragon King was too great. What was more, given their current state, it was impossible for them to cooperate again and launch a second sword of three realms. If they didn't kill it now, there might never be another chance. They had to slay it first, and then figure out the rest. Even if the shield of the divine council were to crumble, the god world's profound foundation would still be able to withstand the chaotic flows of time and space for a certain period of time. There was still a chance. But if the Golden Dragon King were to escape this fatal blow, it would cause chaos in the god world. A bright golden flame rose up all over the Golden Dragon King's body. As a divine beast, it also possessed similar abilities to the gods. When it turned its body and felt the killing intent behind it growing stronger, it knew that it had no chance of escaping anymore. Since that was the case, it would go all out and self-destruct. The massive golden figure in the sky began to rapidly shrink, and as its body shrank, its speed increased, astonishingly fast, so fast that, die, all of you go die. Golden Dragon King shouted frantically, his angry dragon roar shaking the entire divine realm. However, at that moment, the handle of the sword of three realms suddenly spewed out a tricolored light of black, white, and red, pushing the sword of three realms to suddenly explode, with its speed increasing instantly. Almost in a flash, it arrived behind Golden Dragon King, who, although Golden Dragon King had shrunk, its still enormous body suddenly paused in midair and froze there. In the next instant, a tricolored light of black, white, and red burst out from the wound behind it, and its huge body also began to disintegrate violently. And at this time, it was only a stone's throw away from the shield of the divine council. Roar! Golden Dragon King suddenly burst out with a final angry roar. From being freed from the seal until now, in just an hour, its life was about to come to an end under the sword of three realms. It was unwilling, truly unwilling. Suddenly, it opened its dragon mouth wide, and a golden light spewed out from its mouth. When the golden light left its body the next instant, its ruby-like eyes suddenly dimmed. But even if its eyes were dim, they were still fierce, and even more with a sense of revenge. Boom! The golden light exploded through the protective shield of the divine council. In the sky, almost at the same time, three figures flashed and turned into three interceptions, wanting to block the golden light, but all of them failed. In that instant, the speed of the golden light was truly terrifying. Tang San, with the strongest visual ability, could clearly see that it was a golden crystal, the size of a fist, in the shape of a diamond, raised at the intersection, just like the scales of Golden Dragon King itself. But within it, it contained a tremendous and terrifying divine power, divine core. The god of kindness exclaimed, just as the gods all have divine souls and divine senses, the core of divine beasts is the divine core. However, since the war, almost all remaining divine beasts have been deprived of the possibility of possessing divine cores by the divine council, which has prevented them from continuing to grow. But the divine core of Golden Dragon King has always existed. Although it was only part of the dragon god at the beginning, it was also the core of its strength as the Golden Dragon King. Chapter 116, Divine Core. At this moment, the Golden Dragon King released his own divine core in the final moments, willing to sacrifice himself to push the power of this divine core forward towards the direction of the God Realm Council. When Tang San heard the words divine core from the god of kindness, he actually breathed a sigh of relief, because he knew that the divine core was the core of the divine beast. And although it did possess immense divine power, it did not possess any attacking power, especially in the case where the Golden Dragon King had already been killed and there was no longer any control. The energy contained within the divine core was not terrifying. It could not destroy the God Realm Council. When the divine core pierced through the outer shield of the God Realm Council, the god of emotions spurted out a mouthful of blood and collapsed on the ground. Not good. Tang San swayed his body and did not have time to chase after the divine core, instead flying towards the center of the God Realm. Without the control of the god of emotions, the entire God Realm trembled violently, with a low rumble echoing throughout the entire God Realm. The god of kindness and the god of evil also chased after the divine core at high speed. No matter what, they had to catch the divine core first. Tang San rushed directly into the center of the God Realm Council, injecting what little divine power he had left into it, stabilizing the God Realm Council once again. But at this moment, his heart seemed to be clenched by something, and a violent palpitation followed. This is not right. Tang San exclaimed in shock, scaring Xiao Wu beside him, who took a step back. The other first-level gods present were all surprised and opened their eyes when they saw Tang San. The supreme god, who was always calm and composed, now had a drastically changed expression and was even trembling uncontrollably. Big brother, what's wrong with you? Xiao Wu asked in surprise. Outside the God Realm Council, Tang Wu hugged her little brother and waited there, constantly urging her own divine power, just like the other gods, to integrate their power into the God Realm Council. Suddenly, a golden light appeared in front of her without warning. Before she could react, the golden light suddenly entered her embrace and disappeared. Tang Wu was stunned for a moment, but in the next instant, she couldn't help but scream. The dazzling golden light burst out from her little brother's body in that instant, and in that moment, his entire body turned translucent gold, and that gold color caused his body to start expanding outward, with a layer of fine diamond-shaped dragon scales appearing on the surface of his skin. At this moment, two palms reached out and pressed on the forehead and lower abdomen of the small Tang Wu. Black and white, two colored halos simultaneously injected into him. Under the gentle infusion, it forcefully stopped his body from growing. Tang Wu then saw that the god of kindness and the god of evil had already come to her side, but their faces were solemn. Wu give us the child, said the god of evil in a low voice. Tang Wu had no choice but to trust them and handed the child to the god of kindness. The god of kindness immediately took Tang Wu in her arms and, together with the god of evil, walked into the central room of the divine realm. Tang Wu followed them. Tang San's chest heaved visibly, and his face was constantly changing, but his divine power continued to pour into the center of the divine realm. When he saw the god of kindness and the god of evil coming with the child, who was emitting a golden light, he couldn't help but close his eyes in pain. Tang San saw his son, and Xiao Wu naturally saw him too. She rushed forward in 3 steps, trembling as she cried out, "What's wrong? What happened to my son?" Her voice trembled, and her whole body shook. Coupled with Tang San's performance just now, an ominous premonition had already spread throughout her body. I'm sorry, said the god of evil, somewhat hoarsely. Tang San's lips trembled, but he forced himself not to let his tears fall. Clenching his teeth, he said to the god of kindness and the god of evil in a deep voice, quickly, let's work together to withstand the chaos of time and space. At this moment, which was a matter of life and death for the divine realm, he knew that his son's fate was uncertain, but he could no longer care. When the body is gone, where will the hair rest? As the supreme god and ruler of the divine realm, his first priority now is to protect the divine realm. The god of kindness carefully handed the child in her arms to Xiao Wu and said in a low voice, let's use the power of reward and punishment to seal his body. After we killed the golden dragon king, the soul of the divine core penetrated into your son's body. It wanted to use the immense divine power within the divine core to burst his body. Now we can only temporarily seal the power of that divine core. Xiao Wu took her son. Although he used to cry a lot, now he was tightly closed, emitting a strong golden light. He looked very beautiful, but the vitality of this young life was rapidly declining. Chapter 117, Save the Child. The divine power of the golden dragon king is incredibly vast, and its core is even more formidable. It contains more than 1/10 of the golden dragon king's divine power, and it is the purest of all its powers. Of course, the golden dragon king knew about the birth of Tang San and Xiao Wu's son, because they were sealing it in the forbidden land of gods at that time. Facing the judgment sword of the three realms, it knew it was doomed to die. It was vicious in its heart and used its final power to activate its divine core. It knew that its divine core power was not enough to kill a supreme god, but it wanted revenge. The best way was to make the culprit, the Shura God, suffer unbearably. Therefore, it chose Tang Wu, who had just been born. For Tang San and Xiao Wu, what could be more painful than the premature death of their newborn son? Unfortunately, it really did it. Tang San, the god of kindness, and the god of evil were all unable to stop it even though they activated the judgment sword of the three realms. At this moment, although the god of kindness and the god of evil had sealed its divine core, the massive divine power contained in it resonated with the divine power in the divine realm. Even without the golden dragon king's control, it would continue to expand until it destroyed Tang Wu's small body. What should we do? What should we do? My son, my son. Xiao Wu muttered to herself. Tang San could control his emotions, but as a mother, her newborn son was on the brink of death before he even tasted her milk. How could she suppress the pain in her heart? Mom. Tang Wu cried and hugged her mother. It's all my fault. I didn't take good care of my little brother. The god of kindness and the god of evil had already come to Tang San's side, and they were also not feeling well. Although they had just returned, they already knew what had happened in the divine realm. They were deceived by the god of destruction, causing Tang San to bear such great pressure alone. Now, even the newborn son had suffered such harm. They were both filled with guilt. But now, there was nothing more important than saving the divine realm. The god of kindness and the god of evil stood on either side of the Shura God Tang San, stretching out their hands and pressing into the center of the divine realm. Suddenly, two powerful divine powers, one black and one white, rushed into the center of the divine realm. The trembling divine realm shield stabilized instantly, and even the entire divine realm stopped shaking. The addition of the two powerful supreme gods temporarily stabilized the confrontation between the divine realm and the chaotic flow of time and space. The god of kindness said to Tang San, Brother San, we've got this covered. You go check on the child quickly. If we can't hold on, we'll call for you. After hesitating briefly, Tang San withdrew his hand. He took a deep breath, adjusted the remaining divine power in his body, and absorbed the vast spiritual power centered on the divine council to restore himself. Fighting against the temporal and spatial turbulence in the divine realm was not something that could be resolved simply by having strong power. It was a complete process that was now in the middle and later stages. The god of kindness and god of evil controlled the central part of the divine realm, so there were no problems for the time being. Also, his consumption was too great, so his effect was much smaller than these two supreme gods. Taking advantage of the recovery gap, he went to see the child first. After all, he was the father. Tang San hurried to Xiao Wu's side and looked at the child in her arms. When Xiao Wu saw him coming, she grabbed onto him like a lifesaver and said, Third brother, save our child. Please save him. He's so young, so young. Tang San held Xiao Wu tightly and kissed her forehead before whispering, Everything happens for a reason. Don't cry, Xiao Wu. As he spoke, he took the child from her and also exchanged the position of the god of Asura to the sea god from Xiao Wu. The god of Asura's divine power was too domineering, while the sea god was still very skilled in healing and much more gentle in strength. Moreover, with the sea god's high divine power, his ability in healing could be greatly amplified. With his divine soul condensed and his divine sense focused, Tang San carefully examined Tang Wu's body. His brow furrowed tighter and tighter. At this moment, the golden dragon king's divine core was inside Tang Wu's body, located in his chest, with terrifying divine power within it. It had been affected by the joint efforts of the god of kindness and god of evil's reward and punishment. That was the only reason the divine power in the divine core did not leak out. However, the divine power within the divine core kept surging. When the divine core had just drilled into Tang Wu's body, it had connected with his bloodline, making it impossible to extract now. The child's body was just too fragile. Moreover, the divine power within the divine core was being pulled by the divine power of the divine realm itself, constantly tending to burst out. Even if it was sealed, it was impossible to completely resist it. The child's life breath had become increasingly weak. Tang San frowned, his brain working at high speed. The child was still alive, which was already the best situation. How could they resist the power within the divine core and prevent it from erupting? This was currently their most important problem. Chapter 118, The Blood Seal. However, the golden dragon king is essentially the divine power of a supreme god, and the divine core is its core power. Before its death, the mission it gave to the divine core was simple, to merge with this child. After the fusion, the huge divine power within the divine core will naturally take Tang Wu's life. It is impossible to take out the divine core. It had already merged with the bloodline, therefore forcibly removing it is equivalent to severing Tang Wu's bloodline. It can be said that this divine core is almost like a curse from a supreme god. In this situation, no one can take it out. If it cannot be taken out, the power within the divine core must be continuously suppressed. It must be suppressed until the divine power within the divine core does not affect Tang Wu's body before he can be saved. But how easy is that? Father-in-law, I just felt it. To keep the power within the divine core from being activated, it can only be done in a place without divine power. Wei Yuao's voice came at this time. Tang San turned his head and saw Wei Yuao wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth while speaking. He looked exhausted and his face was not good, but his eyes were especially bright. Tang San's heart moved. Wei Yuao possessed strong divine sensibility, and his soul detection was unparalleled in the divine realm. In terms of the scope of detection, even the supreme god might not be better than him, and in the details, he was even better. Yes. Without divine power, there would be no external divine power to activate the divine power within the divine core. Although the divine power within the divine core would still surge outward, at least the degree of surging would be much lower. It is not as unstable as it is now. Tang San took a deep breath and turned to Xiao Wu. I have a way. Xiao Wu was overjoyed. Hurry up and save our son. Tang San paused, but Xiao Wu's heart tightened. But what? Tang San said bitterly. I'm afraid this child can't stay by our side. Yuao is right. Only a place without divine power can he be safe. But where in the divine realm would there be a place without divine power? Only by sending him to the mortal world can he avoid the interference of divine power. And in the mortal world, the elemental power of heaven and earth is far less than that of the divine realm, so it will not easily activate the power within the divine core. I will apply enough seals to the divine core to gradually unlock them along with his growing strength. This way, he can gradually absorb the energy within the golden dragon king divine core. It's not a bad thing. Maybe it can even give him some of the golden dragon king's abilities. Xiao Wu hesitated for a moment, looked at Tang San, and then looked at their daughter beside her, saying, Are you saying that we should send him back to the Douluo like we did with Wu Tongji back then? Tang San nodded. Xiao Wu anxiously said, But he was just born and is so small. Tang San bitterly smiled and said, Now this is the only way to save his life. We can't bear to part with him, but more importantly, we need to keep our son alive. After our divine realm stabilizes, we will always pay attention to him in the divine realm and help him. We will think of other ways to help him dissolve this divine core. Okay. Xiao Wu gritted her teeth, but she still agreed without hesitation. Temporary separation was not as important as their child's life. She and Tang San had gone through a lot together before, and she knew that she couldn't hesitate now. They had to save their son first. With Xiao Wu's support, Tang San also made up his mind in an instant. Tang Wulin's situation was too dire, and they had to act quickly. He bit his own finger, flicked his finger, and a drop of golden red blood immediately flew into the air. His right hand pulled in the air, and within the crimson blood, a strange fragrance seemed to spread out. Tang San handed Tang Wulin to Xiao Wu, and then his left hand pressed against his chest. A blue golden halo spread out from his body, then turned into a whirlpool, and gathered into Tang Wulin's body like a vortex. The drop of blood in the sky was injected into the center of the vortex. Tang Wulin's small body trembled violently, and then the golden light on his body actually decreased a little. Tang San did not pause. He flicked his right hand again, and another drop of blood flew out. This time, the blood scattered slightly in the air and turned into a rune, which was injected into Tang Wulin's body. The golden light weakened again. Tang San was using his own blood as a guide to place a seal inside his son's body, and he used the power of the two supreme gods of reward and punishment to set up a series of seals around the divine core, suppressing the divine power within. Drop by drop of blood, line by line of runes. That was the blood of the supreme god. Although the power contained in the Golden Dragon King's divine core was overbearing, it had lost the control of the Golden Dragon King. Under Tang San's forced suppression, the seal continued to work, suppressing the overflowing power back into the divine core. When the 18th drop of blood was injected into Tang Wulin's body through the blue golden vortex, Tang San's body staggered and almost fell. His face had become extremely pale. He had already consumed a huge amount of divine power, and now he had to concentrate all his attention on placing the seal on his son's body. The pressure he was bearing could be imagined, but for the sake of his son's life, he had to grit his teeth and persist. Chapter 119, Space Teleportation. A golden stream of air rushed out from Tang Wulin's mouth and nose. The next moment, he cried out with a wah sound. Tang San placed the life seed left by the goddess of life close to Tang Wulin's chest, and the soft breath of life flowed in. Tang Wulin's complexion immediately improved. Xiao Wu was overjoyed and quickly hugged her son, kissing his little pink face over and over. My son, my son. Xiao Wu murmured, calling out to him. Tang San, supported by Tang Wutonji, urgently said, Quick, Yuao, open a passage to the human world. Send him out. We must quickly isolate the external divine power, otherwise the divine core will be directly attacked by my seal. Yes. The god of emotion hurried into action, a golden light shining, and a passage to the human world opened in the center of the divine realm. This was entirely the power of spatial teleportation. In the divine realm, only the supreme god had this authority, but a first-level god like Yuao could operate it. Tang San supported himself and came to Xiao Wu's side, looking down at the baby in her arms. His eyes also filled with reluctance. Lowering his head, he gently kissed his son's cheek, trying hard not to let his tears flow. Xiao Wu, we can't delay to save his life. Xiao Wu clenched her teeth, her hands almost trembling as she handed the child back to him. Tang San took a deep breath, turned his head to Tang Wutonji, and said, Give him the golden dragon spear. It's part of the golden dragon. He left it behind when he was first heavily injured. Tang Wutonji nodded, took out the golden dragon spear, and handed it to Tang San. Tang San pressed his right hand on the golden dragon spear, and suddenly the spear turned into a ball of golden light, quickly shrinking. Finally, it condensed into a small diamond-shaped golden pattern that was pointed on Tang Wulin's right wrist by Tang San. At the same time, he pointed his left index finger on Tang Wulin's forehead, injecting some spiritual energy. After doing all this, he took a deep breath, stepped forward, and came to the passage to the human world, sending the child into the passage. Wulin, Xiao Wu shouted, her eyes darkening as she fainted in her daughter's arms. Tang San also staggered, and was supported by the god of emotion to avoid falling. The tears that he had been holding back finally burst out at this moment. As a father, he felt heartbroken that he couldn't protect his child. The little figure disappeared almost instantly in the passage. With the catastrophe in the divine realm, even Tang San, the supreme god, couldn't arrange anything for his son like he did for his daughter. Everything had to be left to fate, but this was also his only chance to survive. Boom, boom. The divine realm shook violently. Tang San turned his head to look at the central screen of the divine realm in amazement, only to see the huge chaotic flow of time and space outside the divine realm completely stripped away, revealing the scene at the core. It was an extremely dazzling silver light. The god of kindness and the god of evil had already mobilized their divine power to the extreme, but they also showed a look of horror on their faces. The core of the chaotic flow of time and space was not the power of time and space, but the pure and extremely compressed power of space, a terrifying power of space. Amidst the violent rumbling sound, in the next moment, the silver light suddenly blazed, and the entire divine realm turned into a silver world. In the vast universe, the sudden bright silver light could be clearly seen throughout the starry sky. What couldn't be seen were those powerful silver lights, which were like the mouth of a monster, slowly swallowing up the divine realm. Quick, activate the barrier to the fullest extent. This is the space shift of the power of space. Tang San roared. My son, murmured Xiao Wu, who was unconscious. The god of kindness and the god of evil only had time to increase the shield of the entire divine realm to its maximum, but under the influence of the external power of space, the divine realm continued to compress inwardly. Finally, a silver strong light flashed with endless charm, and at the same time disappeared. So did the divine realm, which controlled many worlds and planets. The god of war, Tang San, Xiao Wu, the god of emotion, the god of butterfly, the god of kindness, the god of evil, Rong Nine Bing, the seven great elemental gods, the seven great original sin gods, and the god of ruin. All the gods were completely gone at this moment. The order that belonged to this star domain, the order set by the divine realm, was quietly disintegrating. The divine realm had disappeared. What was left of the divine realm was only Chapter 120 Hope. The tall trees are so dense that even the sunlight can't penetrate, resulting in a dark atmosphere within this large forest. Deep within the forest, there is a small, clear lake. The water is crystal clear, but unfortunately, there is a considerable distance between the water level and the shore. It is clearly a small lake that is drying up. The breath of life ripples through the lake water, but it is not strong. It is even somewhat weak. Standing by the lake is a man. He is wearing a black robe and looks to be in his 40s, with a handsome and resolute appearance. A strand of golden hair hangs on his cheek from his forehead. He stands there, his gaze seemingly dull, with a hint of despondency emanating from him. Just a short distance away from him, there are a few people standing, some tall, some short, some fat, some thin, all with different shapes. However, everyone's eyes are very dim. Beast God. A woman wearing a green long skirt quietly approached the black-clothed man from behind and respectfully said. The man known as Beast God trembled all over, a bitter smile on his lips. Beast God. I'm afraid these are the only soul beasts we have left. Who am I God to? The woman in the green skirt was silent for a moment before whispering. It has been 10,000 years since Wu founded the Spirit Pagoda organization. Are we finally going to face extinction? Beast God replied bitterly. Humanity's strength has made us powerless. The Stardew Forest has only this last piece of pure land left. Yes. The woman in the green skirt was about to say something else when suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled slightly. Then, the lake in front of them bubbled like it was boiling, and bubbles rose rapidly. Immediately after, the ground began to shake violently. What's going on? Are the humans coming? The woman in the green skirt exclaimed in alarm. Let's fight them. A burly man roared. With a shake of his body, he transformed into a giant bear over 30 meters tall, radiating a dark golden luster all over his body. Zoin Jun, calm down. It's not human, the beast god shouted loudly. On his originally dim face, there was a hint of indescribable madness. It's over, it's over, it's over. A deep voice wandered unpredictably in the forest. The voice seemed to come from all directions, and because it was too deep, it was impossible to tell if it was male or female. Boom. The earth cracked, and the entire forest trembled violently. The remaining lake water in the small lake poured in, and the lake bed was exposed in an instant. Bang. A burst of silver light suddenly burst out of the crack in the earth, and then heavily hit the shore. It was a huge claw, entirely silver, and covered with hexagonal silver scales. The excitement in the eyes of the beast god was even greater. He took a step forward, knelt down on one knee, and respectfully said, Welcome, master. A huge figure over 100 feet long suddenly rose into the air the next moment, and then fell heavily on the ground the next moment. One by one, the giant trees rose up, and all the humans standing around turned into giant beasts. But in the face of the silver behemoth, they could only grovel on the ground. It's dead, but I'm still alive. The low voice roared with a heavy sense of sorrow. Are these despicable humans going to extinguish us? Since I have awakened, the day of their destruction is coming. The beast god urgently said, Master, the humans are already too powerful. Even I, their most advanced soul maker, cannot fight them. With their technology, they have made us powerless. The low voice replied, To destroy them, we must first understand understand them. Come with me. Our world of existence is about to be completely destroyed by them. Therefore, we must conquer their world. The giant figure slowly walked towards the direction outside the forest, shrinking in size under the cover of the giant tree canopy and in the dim light. Wah, wah. Hey, whose child is this? He's so cute. Don't look anymore. Look at this child. He's frozen. Let's take him home and warm him up first. The pinkish face of the child was a little purple from the cold, but his delicate hand had a diamond-shaped golden rune on it. The end of the story. Please look forward to the opening of Douluo Continent III. Author's note. Finally finished writing. Let out a sigh. Actually, in the early days, I never thought about writing a legend of the divine world. Later, many readers particularly hoped that I would write it. I have always believed that my writing is always for the readers. As long as someone likes to read, I will continue to write. Everyone has been looking forward to it for a long time, and has always hoped that I would write such a story. At the same time, I also hope that this side story can serve as a bridge between Douluo Continent II unrivaled Tang Sect and the Douluo Continent III that we will open next year. The divine world was swept away by the chaotic flow of time, but Tang will stayed in Douluo Continent, along with the Lord who awakened from the Stardew Forest. Their stories will be revealed one by one in our Douluo Continent III. After I finish writing Heavenly Fire Avenue, I will continue writing the third and fourth parts of Douluo Continent, making our entire Douluo world more complete. Don't worry, during Douluo Continent III, I will definitely bring everyone a lot of surprises. Just imagine, after 10,000 years of unrivaled Tang Sect, what will our Douluo world become? What kind of powerful opponents will our ruling face?